But do you guys like my hat?
Hey,
Very
nice
nice.
hat. Looks nice.
Thanks. It was really nice of you to send that over. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with the CD, though.
I was just going to say that CDs are pretty antiquated, but...
I'm super excited about them because they're my first pop interview.
Really?
Yep.
So
They're
you said there were 6 before this or 5 before this?
5. So you guys are my 6. So you guys are from California and you're brothers, right?
That we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Cali.
Well,
Bay Area.
Bay Area.
Grew up in
Bay Area.
Specifically, a place called Gilroy, which happens to be the garlic capital of the world.
I love garlic.
Yeah. We're used to the garlic smell, but when people come through, they're like, whoa, it smells so strong there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, super strong
There's a
garlic.
factory and everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to come visit you guys because that sounds like heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys go to school together? So how old are you guys?
I'm 23.
I'm 26.
Yeah.
Did you go to school? What did you guys study?
Okay, so wait, when you say school, do you mean like grade school or college?
College.
I'm just about to be done in June.
Oh, really?
Where do you study?
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. All of my audio production stuff from the Berklee College of Music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then where did you go?
So I did what would be like the equivalent of like an associate's degree in something very obscure, which you wouldn't think. I did it in Bible and theology, which is super like random. I never actually finished the program, and that's a whole different story. But
What type of kids were you growing up as brothers? Like, who was the goofy one? Who was the serious one? Who was the troublemaker?
This is what we always tell everyone, and everyone's kind of flabbergasted by this piece of information. But we virtually never fought as siblings, which you'd think that there's fighting each other, but we never did. We kind of always grew up doing this similar things, whether it was sports, and then once we transitioned into music, it was all over. When he was like 9 or so, and then when I was about 9 or 10, it was just over. Music from then on.
So you started when you both were 9, 10-ish?
Yeah, so I started playing drums like for my church, and then a few years later, Zach picked up the guitar.
Where did you get your creative side from?
That's a strange question. Oh, sorry, not a strange question, but strange.
What kind of creativity?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, it's good. It's good.
Strange.
Sorry, not a strange question. It's I never really thought about it, but
Where do you get your creativity?
yeah, when you think about it, our dad could kind of sing, but not really, and our mom can kind of sing, and neither of them play instruments.
I think it was very much just cultivated through time and a lot of Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls and
into a whole bunch of different rock bands.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So tell me about all of that.
I guess this could be a really lengthy story, but I'll just boil it down a little easier. So our dad brought us up on, like, when you think about dad music, I usually think of like AC/DC or Led Zeppelin or like those kind of like rock bands, which was true. We listened to AC/DC and
probably the most for sure.
The most.
What about punk rock bands?
You know what's weird?
Not really. No.
We never grew up on like
Nope.
like what's a famous one? Like when people say the Misfits or the Ramones or sorry, let's go after that. Like Blink-182 or like Taking Back Sunday. We weren't really like in that era really at all.
You're involved in multiple rock bands, right? And there was one
So
we called like Reformers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where you toured and everything.
Yeah.
Why did you quit all that?
We started listening to like weirdly enough, like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Spice Girls, Britney Spears.
Very young.
Very young. And that's how we kind of learned to like hold a tune, I guess, like and sing. But then for some reason we, I guess, kind of migrated over into heavier music. But when we say rock, we don't necessarily mean like Foo Fighters rock.
Yeah.
We mean like,
even though we love Foo Fighters. I do.
Okay. Metallica, but like heavier than Metallica. Um, okay,
Take you know the name Slipknot, right?
Yes.
Way more
That's
like,
taking it in a darker direction.
yeah.
yes. So
Like that.
like that.
Not like
With
not
that the
no,
heavy like like that
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Lots
Oh,
of
yeah.
yelling. The reason why it's just the two of us is because throughout all the bands, this is absolutely no disrespect to any person that we've ever been in a band with, but for a lot of the projects, it was kind of like us writing the music and us kind of having the ideas for the most part, not fully, but for the most part. And so we thought, well, why don't we do a project that goes back to what we originally listened to with our dad, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, that kind of influence. Of course, our music doesn't sound like a boy band, but just the two of us, and that's what Mountenz is.
You guys are kind of a little bit of everything, I feel like.
You think, Zach? Are we a little bit of everything?
I think definitely. I think anytime you get into a new project, you slowly start to find your sound, and you slowly start to just go, where do we want this to go, and how do we want it to sound? And you cultivate that through time. And it's like it's never one like, well, we got this one song, now the rest of them, everything has to sound exactly like this, you know. And it's tough too because like I love so many things, and coming from a place of usually the one being like the start of the whatever song we're doing, beginning a production, some type of sound, some type of a beat or an instrument of some kind, and then formulating a song that way. It's usually never like, well, here's the same thing. To where in a band you had one guitar or two guitars, a bass, a drums, and a vocal, and you're like, well, you can only do so much and pick a certain genre for that. Whereas like more like pop production music or hip hop or EDM even for that matter, you can literally do anything. You can use millions of sounds in any way you want, manipulate them in hundreds of ways. So it's like it's so tough to have like the love of so many things and then to go like, oh, we can do them all fairly well, and then to just like pick one and then just stick with that. You know what I mean?
How did you come up with Mountenz?
Oh,
Okay, well,
very
it's
easy.
actually really simple. So the way it started was, and if you go back really far back on our YouTube channel, and actually if you scroll all the way down on our Instagram, you'll be able to see it because everything's documented. But we just started out as Max and Zach because that's our names, Max, Zach. And we were just doing covers at first. So if you go on YouTube, we did covers of everyone, Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, everyone. Mashed up covers actually. And then where we found ourselves was in a place where even though the covers were fun,
Yeah.
they weren't like really fulfilling because they weren't like ours. You know, it was like our take on someone else's song. And so then we thought, okay, do you think we should like change our name because we want to start releasing original music? And so we hit up a friend of ours who actually works in the music industry, and we said, what do you think of the name Max and Zach? And I think his only text was, it kind of sounds like you're on the Disney Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay. And now our last name is Monty, and the word Monty means mountain.
Oh.
So
Cool.
yeah, it means mountain, and there's actually a couple other things that are really cool. So as you can tell, our name is spelled kind of strange. But if you look at how it's spelled, our last name, Monte, Monte, is actually found within the spelling of Mountenz because we utilize the same letters.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's bookended by the first letter of my name and the first letter of Zach's name, M and Z, Mountenz.
So Zach, you're the producer.
Yep.
So Zach, Max, you're the singer, and Zach, you're the producer. So as a producer, do you run into any challenges as a producer?
Within this world of music, like that we're creating?
Yes. Do you face any challenges producing?
I wouldn't so much say it's necessarily a challenge more than it is just like a creative outlet. So it's like, again, like I said, you have so many different things to work with when it comes to this. Because nowadays, all the music you will ever hear is always done on a computer. It's crazy. But just from having so much time being spent working with so many different types of genres and like everything in between, it's usually comes down to one, at least for Max and I, finding a direction that we want to go down and then executing it like the best we possibly can. And that usually it probably takes Max longer to write the actual song than it does me to produce everything. So I've gotten it down to such a science now to where I know how it's supposed to hit, how it's supposed to be there,
Right. And do you mix and master all of your things?
everything.
Software do you use?
Mainly Pro Tools. Pro Tools is like my go-to for DAW. But I've used Cubase, I've used Logic, I've used Ableton Live, I've used Reason, I've used different things, and then everything inside of those things that you can use for different softwares, and Isotope and Slate Digital, and like there's like so many I could name, but like the first place you always have to start with is sound choice. So like selecting something, so getting a sample of a little piece of a region of audio. You're fine. I understand. And then from there,
sorry, guys.
you're creating into something new. That's all it is.
And then what equipment as a producer do you think is absolutely necessary to produce music?
A solid computer.
Yes.
You need a solid computer.
A strong computer.
Yeah.
What computer do you use right now?
I use two. I have a Mac Mini. It's basically like my standalone like go-to, and then I have a MacBook Pro that's like souped up that I use if I need to go anywhere else. And honestly, my MacBook is actually more powerful than my Mini, but I've just been using it for so long, and I know how to work it really well, if that makes any sense, to where anything that goes around. And I also have a bunch of like outside processors and connected to my interface stuff.
Max, as a songwriter, do you face any challenges musically when you're coming up with lyrics, or do you guys both write the lyrics together, or is it mainly kind of split?
It's basically 50-50 for the most part. Every once in a while, like I'm pretty much useless when it comes to production. I may have like an idea or like a, hey, try this, but Zach is the one that executes that. And then for Zach, it's actually perfect because Zach would consider himself not much of a words person, and I'm very much a words person. So it just works out perfectly. But to answer your original question, which is, do I have any, without getting too deep into it, I'm a very like a literal black and white person. So what I mean by that is I didn't grow up learning to write songs with tons of metaphors. And so it ends up sometimes coming out too literal, and it doesn't give the person kind of the space to imagine what I mean. They just go like, oh, I know exactly what you're saying. So that would be like maybe one of my, not one of my strengths, although I'm working on it. And then I would say the other thing would be subject matter tends to just kind of be around love, whether it's heartbreak or, love. And learning to get outside of that is difficult because that's what I mean, a lot of pop music is about love. I mean, break or heartbreak or like getting over someone or being hurt. So yeah, finding my way outside of that is kind of strange.
Like, because Max does all of the graphics and all of the any type of content you see, that's all this guy. So like, you basically along the way just go, how can we make this solely 100% the most effective and the most professional? And that doesn't work out perfectly all the time for every single thing, but like, it definitely lets you do what you want to do, how you want to do it. You know what I mean?
Gina,
right.
It's crazy. We're at the point now where we can literally do everything. So like all graphic design, all music videos, all lyric videos, all the music, the distribution, everything we can do by ourselves, which is so nice.
Rewind to Mr. Wonderful. How did you guys feel when you released that EP?
I would say it was very cathartic. It was very
Because I know it was dedicated to your father, so.
Yeah, it was basically like part of the healing process, if that makes any sense. Especially me being not a person, nor am I like crazy emotional. It was just the most, at least for me in my mind, the way that I process things, the best way for me to process anything like that is to put it through music. So I could say on the production side, music side, it was just, that was cathartic.
Yeah, and for me, I think that because I got the chance to write the majority of the lyrics, but obviously how we were feeling. And I think that was the nice part, was being able to put out exactly how I was feeling, knowing that there were probably other people who have lost loved ones that would be able to relate in the same way. And it actually proved to be true. There were people that reached out to us during the process that said, you know, I lost my dad too, or I lost my mom, or I lost my sister. I think there had to have been at least between 10 and 20 people that hit us up and just said, hey, like that, I went through the same thing. So that was really cool as well.
So you guys got like a tattoo dedicated to your dad or something?
We got matching ones on back of each of our legs.
Can I see it? Is it going to be too difficult to show it?
I mean, you've... Oh, no, never mind. You haven't seen the cover of the... It's not on the cover. Let me
So how would we angle this? Should you do like a handstand or
Here,
something? I don't know.
I can take the camera. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You guys both have matching
Yeah.
the whole thing?
Different leg, and then the way the fish is the opposite way.
Why the fish?
My dad loved steelhead, like fishing, and so it was just another way to like memorialize that.
Okay, I'm laughing because for the latest single you have, Gone. I saw the music video. Who came up with these ideas? Like shoving food in your face, very relatable, and then the shower. What?
The extreme variations of things that someone would do when they're. You can explain when they're.
Like if you like, basically the lyrics are saying, like this situation or this person that once didn't allow you to be fully you, is no longer in your life. So just think of like maybe a person that was, I guess you could relate it this way, like a person that you were dating or a person you were with, and they like didn't allow you to just fully express yourself, and they were like putting you down or whatever. The song is saying like, it feels so good that you're gone. And one of the lines says like, I'm thriving. And so we just took that to the extreme to say like, what is the best representation of what a person would do if there were like no boundaries? And for me, and by the way, this is very real. Okay. I have an obsession. Like I am obsessed with sugar. It's a bad thing. And so I would I would binge eat ice cream, pizza, and Diet Pepsi. Those are my three favorites. And so I did.
So it was like a very, very over-dramatic depiction of what that would look like.
Right.
And it makes you remember it. That's the point. It's so ridiculous, and it's so like, what is he doing? You go, I can't remember and not forget this.
I mean, if that was your goal, you succeeded. Because I remember, I was like, what are they doing right now?
Yep.
They're just shoving food in your face and you're just chugging wine in the shower.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I have to talk to them about this because this music video is epic and there's so many questions. Your biggest struggle on this journey? It could be personally, musically, anything.
I mean, I can think of a superficial one, and it bugs me daily, but it is what it is. The way that particularly Instagram, but social media works is there. I mean, there's algorithms to everything. There's algorithms in YouTube and Spotify and Instagram and everything. And so, Gina, it's interesting. I understand why people. I don't want to word this the wrong way because it's a kind of a sensitive issue, but like I can understand why people get like depression or like what's the word? Just mentally they get kind of like, what's the right word for this? Mentally like hung up because of like you see something maybe on someone else's page or what they're doing and it seems like it's excelling. And then you look at maybe what you're doing and you're like, wait a second, but how come what I'm doing isn't, matching up with what they're doing? And I think to bring this full circle, I think the frustrating part is I think the algorithms and like how it basically forces you to kind of force your audience to like to like and comment. And if you don't get those things, then it doesn't get fed to more people, which means that they don't get to enjoy the thing that you want them to just see. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, is like, there's plenty of people that follow us, that tell us that they love what we're doing, but don't, let's say, like or comment on everything. That doesn't mean they don't like what you're doing. It just means maybe they're not seeing the posts. And so that's what's so frustrating about it.
I know. You know what? Hold on. This. I just got this phone case. Social media seriously harms your mental health.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
That's what it says.
Yes.
Yep. Story of my life. It's really it's such a big issue. I don't think
everything takes time to cultivate, and it's more about the journey than it is the destination. So, and I'm also not a very like frustrated person to begin with. So I don't get like upset very easily by pretty much anything. Even if I'm frustrated at like, oh God, this song is taking so long, and like I don't know what I want for this specific part in whatever. It's like, if you just sit there and take a breath and like go, take your time, you're gonna figure it out, stuff like that. I think time tells a lot of that kind of stuff, and it mends it. So at least when it comes to that kind of stuff, like here's a great example. We talk about him a lot because he's not necessarily our favorite artist or his music, but like his drive is probably the coolest thing about him. Is like, you know who Russ is?
Yes.
Yeah. So he did it for like 10 years with nothing and no one, and then he basically, just within the last couple of years, he like popped super hard, and now he does exactly what he wants to do with no one telling him whatever, because he worked so hard to get to where he is. And that's it. Like it's part of that journey more than it is I just have to look the right way to be on Instagram, to promote this content the perfect way, to make the biggest audience like me and like what I do. It's like you're falling into the trap of like you're becoming not yourself. You're selling yourself for the most part, and there's always a side to being a better version of you for sure. But like when you start doing stuff that's not you, you start to lose yourself, and it doesn't become what you want to do initially isn't there anymore,
If you could offer one piece of advice, life advice, music advice, what would it be?
You want to answer on the music side?
Let me think about it for a second. You can answer yours first.
I have. I'll tell you the first thing that comes to mind. Start younger. So, I mean, we started young, but we didn't start Mountenz young. So, start younger, and don't get tripped up because you're not at the place that you maybe want to be at right then and there. A great example of this is we very early on worked with this girl. Her name is Raina Harton. She's such a good singer. But at the time, I think she was like 14. And we just did a cover with her. And that's what I told her. I said, Raina, do not get caught up in wanting to do things too fast because you're young. You have a lot of years, and just cultivate it. Like, get better. You could spend the next 4 years not doing anything, and you would still be 18 years old. I mean, that's so young. So that's what I would say is start young, put stuff onto the internet, get people's reactions, just keep doing it, and have that 10-year thing logged down so you can look back 10 years from now and go, that's where I came from. That's what I would say.
Right. And ideally, what age do you think people should start at?
As early as possible. I mean, you look at America's Got Talent and The Voice and American Idol, you have kids starting stupid.
They're like babies just singing, just like Alicia Keys.
You ever see those like years old, but they're crazy? Like, yes, as early as possible.
But I think there's two sides. There's two sides to this. There's two sides, because there's the side of the kid who's cultivating his craft, who's really practicing and executing as much as she can, often. There's also the side of it where you have these little social media kids who become these influencers. And again, just at least in my opinion, the most harmful thing you can ever do to yourself, to a kid, is put them in a world where it's like, you have to do this way and be this way and look this way and act this way. And it's not at all about what you do anymore. It's just about you as an item or whatever, you know. You're a product at that point. You're not a person. You're not part of your art obviously has to be the marketing of it, 100%. You can't get around that. But you lose yourself when you become like outside of the, like, who's a good example of this? I can't even think of anybody because I don't even follow that world at all.
Miley Cyrus recently came out with that whole Hannah Montana thing.
There you go.
Remember? Yeah.
Or
actually anybody. Justin Bieber. Mm-hmm. There's Kylie Jenner. Yeah. There's literally everybody.
Yeah. There's always pros and cons to being on either side of anything, but especially for being, I would say for me, from being someone who gives advice to and something that someone's cultivating. It doesn't have to be just music. It doesn't have to be just production. It could be anything. Get really good at anything you do. Spend your time, and the moment you think you've got it, and the moment that you think you're good enough, make your next goal. Make your next thing. Go do the next thing that will make you better. It's like practicing anything or going to the gym a lot, or it doesn't matter what it is. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But there's never a time when you've like made it. You've succeeded and you've attained this whatever. You think you're so great. You're not that great. We're all not that. I always say the same thing to Max. I'm like, people who often come across as being like the cool people, like the cool girls and the cool guys, we're so all that. At the end of the day, everybody goes to bed, sleeps on a pillow. They're all not that cool. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how much flex you have or how often you flex or what's your drip or like any of that stuff. As much as it's funny and as much as we can look at it and go like, yeah, but it's a part of culture. We all understand that. The reality of it is take all of that away. Who are you? You know what I mean? So if you don't have who you are without any of that stuff, what does that even mean? You're...
Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Our pleasure.
You guys need to come to Chicago one day.
We would love to. We've been there before on tour with our metal band.
You have?
We loved it. We saw the Bean and everything.
And your rock metal band,
yeah,
like screamo music. I will see you either when I'm in California or I will see you next when you're in Chicago.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.